When debt follows you around, the right to money from a magical and occult perspective. What if debt follows a person throughout their life? They work, everything seems to be going well, yet they remain endlessly in debt, constantly taking out loans. What could be the magical reason behind this? First of all, it has to do with the absence of the right to money. You see, we are currently living in a system that can be conditionally called a system of entangled states. When a person enters this world, they live under illusions about who they are. On the one hand, this is a good thing, as it does not burden them in any particular way. Nothing initially binds their feet in chains, nor does it exalt them without reason. On the other hand, this also gives them the wrong starting positions. Just the wrong starting positions. You know, there are two categories of people who take out loans. For example, when an entrepreneur or a business owner takes out a loan, they put it to work immediately. They understand that every penny they borrow must generate at least 20 more, so they repay 5 to the bank and keep the rest for themselves. In other words, they calculate their investment. But a person who has no right to money, what do they do when they get the same loan? The first thing they do is buy a car. In other words, they spend it on liabilities instead of assets. They buy a bag that costs $1,500, something they could never afford on their salary, because that huge amount of money just burns a hole in their pocket. And these are two different categories of people. One thinks about how to turn credit into money, the other thinks about how to get rid of it as quickly as possible. So a person who belongs to the first category has the right to money, and he knows that money attracts money, whereas a person who belongs to the second category has no right to money because he is deathly afraid of it, and money in turn is not attracted to him. But the accessibility of financial offers, the illusion that we are all equal and have the same rights, prevents the second person from distinguishing themselves from the first. They think they are the same. They believe that if the first person got a loan and got rich, they will also get rich if they take out a loan. They are not interested in the tools required to become rich, nor in the principles of capital investment or other economic nuances. These things, which may seem like confusing jargon to someone without a financial mindset, are actually essential knowledge for anyone dealing with money. As a result, these two types of people end up with very different outcomes. The first becomes richer, while the second inevitably becomes poorer, and both do so exponentially. And this is a matter of the right to money. Nowadays, schemes for getting rich, or rather, the illusion of it, are widely available, and very few people realize that this is a planned provocation. If people understood this from the start, they would be more cautious. But since they refuse to see it, they have to go through this testing phase, fall into debt, take out quick loans, and deal with debt collectors. So, if you don't know how to calculate 2% per day, if you can't work it out, and it seems like a very small amount to you, then you shouldn't have the right to money, because you lack even the most basic understanding of the world you live in, and most importantly, you lack responsibility. Should such a person face the consequences? Absolutely. I'm sure we can all agree on that, because you must take responsibility for your actions. How else can you learn if you haven't learned by now? So if a person keeps getting into these situations, it is a clear sign that they have no right to money. They simply have no right. They are trying to build wealth from the wrong starting position. They are trying to build wealth from the position of the laborer caste, but that process begins with the merchant caste. And in the merchant caste, you have to establish yourself by passing a certain level of tests to prove to others that if you are given a penny, you will turn it into 10 within a year. Only then will people be willing to deal with them, because in the merchant caste, business is only done this way, and only this way. So, what advice can be given to such a person? Reset to zero and start over. Learn to see things clearly. And education doesn't play a role here. Someone might be born with a merchant's intuition, while another person can graduate from 3 finance universities and still know nothing. just throwing around terms like volatility without understanding what they really mean simply because it sounds impressive, and so on. So in this case, you don't even need an occult perspective to see that the right to money is reflected in one's attitude toward it. If you are afraid of spending money, if you are afraid of receiving it, then you won't have it. You have to start working on your subconscious, your consciousness, and establish a connection, not with money itself, but with the currents of forces that exist in this world. If you are afraid of the world, you won't have money. In this way, take a serious look at your starting position. I mean it. Some people who come to my classes insist that they belong to the warrior caste. I don't argue with them. If that's what they believe, fine. Others come to me and say, we understand that we are laborers. And based on that, we build our algorithm for moving forward, and these people achieve results much faster than the first group, because the first group, misjudging their position, immediately aims to become mages, or at the very least, rulers, even though they are still in the laborer caste. Do you understand the path they have to go through? Yet their intention is strong, and when it is magically reinforced, it starts pulling them toward realization. This creates such a collapse in their lives that not everyone can withstand it. The second group, however, does it correctly. They recognize their true position and move forward gradually. They understand the whole algorithm, that they first have to establish their position in the merchant caste, which means they have to earn money, make connections, and most importantly, stop being afraid of people. Because how can you make money if people terrify you to your core? You just can't. Because money is made among people. It is an artificial current created by people that exists between them as a system of mutual communication. Therefore, it is necessary to overcome the fear of people and learn how to earn money. And these individuals succeed in this, and they succeed quite quickly. Then they establish their second vector of intention, the warrior caste. This already implies professionalism, the art of using words, and the ability not only to manage money, but also to make others work for it. And that is a very different process. And so the second group learns gradually, while the first group learns nothing. They wait for everything to come to them effortlessly. Therefore, the first step is to correctly determine your position. If you do that, everything will work out. This is the first test of honesty, because in magic, lying is unacceptable. When you set yourself a vector of development, the first thing to learn is not to lie to yourself. Look around you. Look at your parents. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You may belong to a high caste through reincarnation, but if you were born into a laborer family in this life, you must start at that level of caste. Keep this in mind. The only difference is that you will reach your previous achievements more quickly. But there were reasons why you lost them. Because if you hadn't lost them, if you hadn't been reset to zero, you would have been born into the same family level as before. If you have gone through purgatory, through confessions, through all these resetting factors, and you have been born into a family of pure laborers, and you understand this clearly, then the only person you can blame is yourself. There's nobody else around you to blame. It is a process, a mathematical algorithm. It will be easier for you to rise again, but you will still have to climb. So will you have to pass through the merchant caste? Yes. Will you have to develop the warrior qualities of honor, dignity, conscience, skill, and professionalism? Yes. You will have to go through it all again. It will simply be easier for you, and you'll be able to achieve it all in one lifetime, if you understand your position correctly. So, determine your position accurately. No one is saying that you can't reach your goal. You just need to set the right vector, otherwise you'll be torn apart.